confused folks. I am Stuart. This is also Stuart, but we call him Stu just to less confusion.
Yep.
We are going to chat about movies, life in general, video games, and the fact that Stu Miller is going to be spending over 6 hours tomorrow in a movie theatre watching Two Towers and Return of the King. Is this back to back as well?
Yeah, it's actually more close to 10 hours.
Ouch.
Because it is just to make people feel old. It's the 25th anniversary of Fellowship of the Ring, because Fellowship of the Ring came out in 2001, and the people who I'm going with the cinema tomorrow, they went to see Fellowship of the Ring yesterday because it's out in cinemas for the 25th anniversary. But
Right.
It's the extended edition, so the extended editions have not been shown in cinemas. Obviously, they've only been released on home release. So the friends who I'm going with tomorrow to see Two Towers and Return of the King, they went yesterday. However, I've got a question to ask them because I think they were too young to actually go and see the Lord of the Rings trilogy when it was released in cinemas. Because if I remember correctly, weren't they rated 12? They were a 12 certificate.
Yes, I think so. I don't know if the first one was.
I think the first one was a PG.
First one was a PG, but yeah.
I'm sure Two Towers and Return of the King was a 12 certificate. So if that's the case, my friend who I'm going with tomorrow was 14 years younger than me. So I was coming up to 21 when I saw. No, I was actually 21 because they were released around about the same time as the Harry Potter films.
Yeah, 2002, 2003, weren't they? Towers and King.
2001, 2, and 3, but they were released in December time, around about that time. So I was just over 21. So he would have, if he's 14 years younger than me, he would have been 7.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought.
I think this is the first time you'll have seen, because he's a huge, massive Lord of the Rings person. So I think this is the first time he's ever seen Lord of the Rings in the cinema.
Wow.
So I'm going to ask them that tomorrow, because if that's the case, I get to see the reaction of somebody who's never seen Two Towers and Return of the King in cinemas for the first time tomorrow. So that'll be interesting.
I saw the theatrical ones in the cinema when they came out, but I haven't seen the extended ones beyond home release, which for me, I'm okay with that. It's fine. But there was something special about watching those films as they came on the big screen. They were like, the difference in watching those is kind of like a difference in watching Jaws or Jurassic Park or something on the big screen versus the small screen.
Yeah, it's sort of like, it is the turn of the millennium. People sort of like, everybody has that one film that when they saw it first in the cinemas, it's that huge, massive spectacle, like you said.
Yeah.
So for me, it was The Goonies. When I first saw The Goonies in the cinema for the first time, it was an absolute spectacle. And so for them, it'll be Lord of the Rings. So it's going to be interesting.
Katie, yes, we can see your comment. Thanks to everybody who joins in the chats on these things. Much appreciated. Hello to Neil Johnson as well. Yeah, you're right. I've never gone back and watched the theatrical versions of the Rings trilogy since the extended ones have come out. I've never quite seen the point.
Yeah. But that's the reason why for the 25th anniversary, it is the extended editions that they're releasing. Hence why Return of the King is on for over 4 hours. It's something in the region of about 4 hours and 12 minutes. Because if I remember correctly, the credits take up a good 20 minutes.
Yeah, they do.
So obviously, they didn't put in sort of like end credit sequences in the Lord of the Rings films, so you don't actually have to steer to the credits. No. And I, for one, even though I like seeing during the credits itself for films, if I'm not in a hurry, I've already steered to the credits for the Lord of the Rings films because I did that when I went to the cinema. And to show you how popular these are, cinema, which is a big cinema, to 12-screen cinema. I've had to put on extra showings of it because obviously with them being so long, they can only show them so many times in the day. I think they can only show Return of the King twice because it is so long. So they've had to put on extra days rather than extra times in that day itself. So
I don't understand why cinemas, and they are doing it more than they used to, but I don't understand why more cinemas aren't showing a lot of older films.
Mine constantly. That's what I absolutely love about when Omniplex, which is an Irish cinema company, took over Empire Cinema for most of the Empire cinemas in the UK, especially mine. And they took it over, did a full absolute revamp of the cinema itself. Every screen has reclining chairs.
Yeah.
So no matter what screen you go in, every screen, no matter which level of which level you actually sit at, which tier, you still get a reclining chair. It's just that each one of the chairs in different tiers are more comfortable than the other, but they're still extremely comfortable. They did that. They re-kitted out all the screens, re-kitted out all of the sound systems, etc. And so it makes it a heck of a lot more special.
Hi to Okies Eden in the chat as well. Okies Eden, which I now know is from Oklahoma, he's got a YouTube channel as well where he does like homesteading. Now, I had no clue. I could probably work out what homesteading was, but over the past couple of weeks, I've been watching all his videos on the channel, and I've learned a lot more, and it makes me very envious having that sort of huge garden that he maintains and stuff. So do check out Okies Eden. I'm loving your videos, Okies. Thanks for popping in here as well. It's nice. So visitors from Oklahoma, Stu, listening to stuff that we see.
Yeah, unfortunately, us here in the UK, we don't have gardens big enough to actually do anything like that unless you live in the middle of the countryside. If you're unfortunate, like myself, who lives in the middle of a city, the garden outside of my property where I live is tiny.
I think if you and I did a gardening YouTube channel, I don't think it'd be very interesting. I mean, we'd be interesting, but I don't think it would take a lot of videos before we've done everything. I've got like 3 plant pots outside. That's about it.
We would have to somehow tie it into films, so make each episode film related, like do one on Little Shop of Horrors and try to actually create the plant from that, and maybe even The Happening, just so we can speak to grass.
It's in the trees.
Yeah.
I like that movie, but never mind.
I don't.
Not many people do, to be fair. So we're going to chat about a whole bunch of films. Do you want to give a highlight reel of the films you're going to talk about? My list isn't huge. One battle after another, I'll talk about highest to lowest, the Spike Lee film, Dr. Plague, which I know you and I are probably going to get into, which is fine, which is very entertaining. And it's probably about it, to be fair. I've only watched 8 films this year. I've had a slow year.
I'm on 8 as well, but these are 9. Because one I cannot talk about. As a matter of fact, the 9th film that I can't talk about, I'm under such a heavy NDA with it. That is probably the heaviest NDA I've ever been put under when it comes to a film.
Are you allowed to say when the NDA is open?
No, because I don't know when the NDA is actually up. So it is that heavily guarded to the point where I can't even tell you the name of the film. All I can say is that it is a film in an already established franchise. That's it. There is no release date for this film in question. It doesn't even have its final title attached to it yet. Is
the film finished, though?
Yes. Well, to the point of that you can actually press screen it. That it is finished. There is obviously, they might do a few tweaks with it, but it has no UK release or US release yet. It hasn't got a finalized fully named yet. The only hint, like I said, I can give is the fact that it's a film in an already established franchise, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I can't even give the genre.
Was that your clue? That's it. Is it Chapter 3?
No, I wish. But it is the most heaviest NDA film I've ever been given. It just dropped in my email inbox one day. Just go, would you like to watch this film? And I thought, I'll watch anything. If something's going to be sent to us, I'll watch anything, even if it's a genre I don't like. For example, martial art movies. I'm not a fan of them. But I'll still watch them if I get sent them, because it's nice that somebody is actually sending me a film to watch. So I was sent it. This was at like 8 o'clock at night as well.
I had to stop doing stuff like that because it got to a point where I would be getting, and it's first world problems, but I'd be getting like a dozen screeners a week, and I'm not talking discs. If they send me a disc through, hell yeah, I'm watching it because I like watching discs. But screener links, I'm not a fan of, and I just couldn't. I would literally have to spend my entire waking bunch of hours watching movies and reviewing them. And I'm like, no. So it's very rare that I'll go back and ask for a screening link.
I didn't even ask for it. It just, like I said, it dropped in the email inbox. One evening, I finished work a couple of hours prior, and I found this email got sent because I checked my email inbox at around about 8 o'clock that evening, and lo and behold, there was the link to the screener of the film itself, which I had to jump through quite a few hoops before I could even watch the film. Good thing is I was able to cast it to my TV, so I didn't have to watch it on my phone or on my tablet, despite the fact that my phone has probably got a better screen than my TV. But I was able to cast it to my television, and I watched it. Again, the only other thing I can see it is it's less than 2 hours long. Right. That's it. So that's not too much. It's not giving much away, but that is honestly it. As soon as I am able to talk about it, and it's not it. It's got nothing to do with Andy Machete. As soon as I am able to talk about the film itself, I will. But I'm under extremely heavy NDA with it. But films I can talk about include movies like Hamnet. So I can talk about Hamnet, Primate, We Bury the Dead, Greenland 2, Anaconda from last year because I watched it very intriguingly, and the new 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. So I can talk about those.
Yeah.
And Dr. Plague.
And Dr. Plague, yeah. One of the things while we're touching upon 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple is, have you seen this thing where it's like some people in America are dressing up as the Jimmies to go watch it? Don't do it. Don't do it, people. Don't do it. Yeah. Do some research. It's not good cosplay.
You don't even have to do that much research. You just type in Jimmy Savile into Google. It'll be the first link you click on.
No. Neil said Greenland 2 looks amazing. I really like the first Greenland one. It is what it is. I like Gerard Butler movies. They're fine. Let's kick off with Greenland 2 then, because we've got, Neil's ready and waiting, and so am I.
Yeah, and we've obviously got a couple of topics. Plus, I've got like a question to throw in your direction, which is in relation to one of the films that I've watched as well, which is Primate. So something which irks me in regards to it, and it irks a lot of people, as a matter of fact. But Greenland 2, obviously, it is the sequel that probably people did expect, but didn't know that they wanted to Greenland, because Greenland, despite the way it ended, spoilers for the ending of Greenland, they actually managed to find a bunker so they could actually live in. You would think that was it, and ironically, the film came out during the pandemic as well. So it sort of like felt very precedent. It was sort of like a disaster movie on the surface, but you dug a little bit deeper and it was more about a survival film. Because disaster films, even though, yes, they are about survival, they never feel like they are. It just feels like they're a visual spectacle to be shown on the biggest screen possible to make people go, oh, look at that. I think they lost their way, because if you watch disaster films from, I would say, from the 50s up to around about the early 80s, the Town Infernos, films like that, it was, yes, the disaster element was there, but it was also about the people's survival. And it felt like disaster films had lost that. So Greenland felt like it went back to that old days in a little way. Yes, you had the visual spectacle, but the interest was with yourself, attaching yourself to that family, helmed by Gerard Butler, to try and find salvation, to try and find a place so they can just live and survive. So Greenland 2 takes that premise again. It uses exactly the same premise. It's set around about 5 years later after the incidents that happened in Greenland. And in this case here, the weather elements have not changed. The world is pretty much uninhabitable, apart from small pockets across the globe. Surprisingly, the further into Europe you get, the more safer you are, including the UK. Supposedly, the UK has breathable air, whereas where they went to, the place itself where they thought they were safe, Greenland, if they're out in the air itself, they need to wear oxygen masks and things like that to actually be able to breathe. But us in the UK, because there's a part of the film that's set in the UK, around about halfway through it, it's breathable. So the whole premise of the film is that a massive earthquake and a disaster happens to the bunker where Gerard Butler and his family, amongst other people, are living in. He's a scientist of sorts, but he's more like a handyman in this bunker. And he goes out every now and again to try and find survivors, supplies, because their supplies are dwindling to the point where they might only have around about 2 years left with the supplies that they've got. So when this disaster hits, it's up to Gerard Butler, along with his family, to try and find a place where they can survive. And they've been told that there's this huge, massive crater somewhere in Europe, very close to France, where society is being able to live. So they've been able to grow things, being able to have rivers and proper houses and stuff like that. Go back to how it was before the disasters happened. And it is just about their trek from this bunker in Greenland to surviving in just off the coast of France.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the basic premise of the film itself. The unfortunate thing with Greenland 2, though, is it doesn't have the impact of the first one does, because it just feels like it is a set-piece film. Right. And that care and attention that you had towards the family, you just really don't care anymore, because it is just too simplistic. Like when the disaster happens in Greenland, they're able to find a boat to get from Greenland to the UK, which a small little disaster happens on the sea, and then that's it. And you're thinking, really? You're out in the middle of the ocean, and only one small little disaster happens, and then the fuel gives in, and that's it.
Yeah, we're lucky. That's good. We need a bit more luck in the Greenland world.
Considering they've already established the fact that the world is in turmoil because of all of these disasters, and they happen constantly. Only one disaster happens within the space of like 10, 14 days for them to try and survive.
You want more disasters to hit them then?
No, I just wanted it to be in line with what it set up. If you set that up, you need to follow your own rules. That's the whole point of doing that in a film. So when they get to the UK, obviously they frame the UK as the dilapidated, war-torn UK, as a lot of people do normally expect to see in these kind of films. And there is a lot of pilfering and a lot of murder and things like that. That's where they're in the most dangerous. And obviously, it is the director just turning around and going, oh, by the way, it isn't just these natural disasters who are dangerous. It's human beings as well. So let's throw that into it. But it's very weakly done. It has no oomph behind it. And so when bad things do happen, you just don't feel the impact of those bad things at all. It just feels like it's just there on surface level, but you dig that tiny little bit deeper below that surface level and you're not going to get anything.
Yeah.
It's like the most disappointing creme brulee. It looks very tempting, but when you crack into it, it's just nothing. It's like cheap store-bought custard, and that's it. So that's pretty much the best way to describe the film. It's like cheap store-bought custard. So don't go, if you're going into expecting the most surface level film where you don't have to even think about anything at all, you might get something from Greenland 2.
I will, because that's exactly what I want from it. Yeah.
If it is that you want anything below surface level, then you will not get anything from this. It's from the same director as the first one. It feels like a Greenland 1.5 or the cutting room floor element of Greenland.
Like a third act for the first film that was never used, and they've lopped it off and made it Greenland 2.
Pretty much, because you could easily condense what happens in this film down to half an hour. As a matter of fact, the ending part of this film, you could have actually made it the ending part of Greenland.
Okay.
So, yeah, for fans of the first one, you might find enough in here just to find it okay. But it's one of those films, unfortunately, at the end of the year, it won't be on anybody's lists. It's not a bad film.
I don't know if anybody would expect it to be, though. I don't even think the people that made it would expect it to be. They're like, we're going to do it, and enough people will watch it, either in the cinema
it's very forgettable.
Prime or whatever.
It's very, very, very forgettable.
Yeah. Do you not find that with most films, though? It's like I keep having this thought and conversation with people. You go back a bunch of years, and a film would come out, and you'd end up rewatching that film quite a few times over like the decades. But with films coming out nowadays, there's very few that I'll be like, I'm going to rewatch that. I've watched F1 a couple of times. But other than that, it's like one battle after another I enjoyed. But I'm not like, I'm going to watch that again next week. Or I'm going to watch it again next month. I need to buy that on Blu-ray because I'm going to rewatch it. And that's nothing specifically against that film. But it's just in general, I think films nowadays seem to be more, I'll watch it once, maybe twice in like the next 10 years. But other than that, I don't feel there's a lot of rewatchability.
It could be down to a couple of things. Like a film these days has to do a lot to try and hook you into it, which is obviously where you're coming from on that front there. Just because there is a lot more avenues and ways for you to be able to actually watch a film compared to even if you look back 10 years ago, when Netflix was starting to actually become the huge, massive behemoth that it actually is.
Yeah.
It needed to start somewhere. And back even 10 years ago, there wasn't a lot of places for you to be able to actually watch films. So the amount of streaming platforms you have now to be able to watch films, and how easy it is to get your film out there these days, it's a lot more easier to do that. So the market is more awash with films than it was, say, back, say, 10, 15 years ago, because you had to go to the cinema. And so you are going to remember that experience. Or it is that kind of thing where you're looking around. Yeah, video stores were pretty non-existent, but they were still there, but they were starting to disappear a lot more so. But you had the opportunity to look around a HMV or a Blockbusters or a Global or whatever video rental store you had in the US, for example. You might have had a mom and pop store. So you had that opportunity to, and it was that kind of thing where, oh, I'm going to watch this film. I know very little about it. I'm going to watch it. I'll remember it more so. Whereas these days you can switch on Amazon, you can switch on Netflix, Shudder, etc., and discover a film, watch it, and go. Well, that's it. So they're easily more forgettable. So these days it takes a lot for them to sink their teeth into it. It's the reason why when we got onto the 2026 preview, I think this year is more awash with big, huge, massive names, director-wise, and big, huge, massive films, because cinema needs to try and find that. Yes, it's brilliant to see smaller movies on the big screen, and it's always lovely to see that. But the event cinema, it's dwindled over the last few years, and they've realised now they need to try and bring that back to make people remember these films. For me, anyway, even if it is a 3 out of 5 film or a middle of the road film, a 5 out of 10, I've got that weird memory that I will still remember it.
Yeah.
And like with Greenland 2, I said, oh, it's going to be a forgettable film. To a lot of people, it will be. But if your brain is sort of like attuned to it, unfortunately, the way mine is, and I do not recommend people attuning your brain like mine, you will remember it, because there will be something in that film which will make you remember it. That's the reason why it's so easy to remember awful films, and it's so easy to remember absolutely amazing films, even if you will never watch them again.
Yeah.
So you will remember elements of one battle after another.
Yeah.
But even if you don't want to buy it on Blu-ray or you don't watch it again, you will remember elements of it. And that, I agree with you in the fact that that needs to come back more so. And it is starting to.
Yeah.
But I don't think we'll ever get to the good old times of the 90s and early noughties. I don't think we'll ever get back to that element.
And I think there's a lot of people who are obviously younger than us two who don't remember. I mean, we're fortunate enough that we were born and we lived through the time where, VHS came into its own. People had video recorders and video players in their house, and then DVD came out, and then streaming came out. So I can remember what it was like before that. There's a lot of people who, you take streaming away, they'd be jumping off a cliff or something because they can't remember what it was like to, life could not possibly. You see people who are. There's a new series on Apple, the second season of Hijack, with Idris Elba, and I saw somebody, they'd released like the viewing figures or whatever for the first episode, and they weren't amazing. And then this guy was like, "Well, that's what happens when you release an episode a week." And you're like, "That's nothing to do with that." People are probably just saving it up till the whole series is there and then binge watching it. But there was a time when there was one. Somebody in the chat, Vex. I remember black and white TV. I had a black and white TV.
My first TV was a black and white television. My own personal first television was.
I Googled the first ever TV that I bought for myself, which was in the 80s, and it was called a Hinari Sunrise. And I remember buying it because it was like really fancy one, because it had a clock on it and you could set it to come on. It was like, oh my God, technology. How is this going to go? And I Googled, I'm like, how big is the screen on that? And it's like a 14-inch screen.
Yeah.
And you're like, my iPad's that size, or probably not much different. And you're like, my God, but we watched films in 4.3 ratio in black and white, because I had a black and white portable for years before then. And we didn't give a shit. We were like, I'm happy, I'm watching the films. But nowadays, no.
Mine was a 14-inch television, white, with the usual rabbit ears on it and the dial that you had to turn the dial to actually tune it to, well, before Channel 4 launched, one of 3 channels on there. And it had a timer on it as well. So, yep, I remember those days before I got my first colour television.
I kind of miss them. But, maybe that's hindsight. Maybe that's just sort of looking through rose-coloured. Now we're on 60-odd inch TV, and it doesn't make the films any better though. That's the thing. You can have an HD 4K TV playing it on a 4K player, which I do. It doesn't make the movies any better.
Yeah, I've got in a flat with four rooms. I've got three 55-inch televisions.
Nice.
So because when I'm at work, which is where I sit now, the TV is to the right of me, it is just to the right of me. Hey, I've got a 55-inch television to the right of me, which I've got YouTube and Twitch on all day when I'm working, and then in me in solitude. I've got two 55-inch televisions, one specifically for movie watching and background watching, and one specifically for gaming.
Yeah.
So
wow. I do. I really, really wish I had a specific TV for gaming. That's one of the things I would love. I'd love to do more gaming.
Yeah, but if I had even just two 14-inch televisions back in that day, you were deemed as rich.
Oh, rich, yeah.
So you just had the main television and then one portable TV that was fought around everybody else in the family. When, for example, your mum wanted to watch Murder, She Wrote, and you wanted to watch the next episode of He-Man.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the way it was. But I don't have that thing now, because the only person I have to fight with for the remote in this flat is my cat.
Yeah.
Which as long as he watches a few cat videos on TikTok or YouTube, he's happy.
Yeah. So I miss those days. I miss those days when I had like a video or VHS library of about 15 films, and I would just constantly rewatch Lethal Weapon or Desperate Hours or Aliens or something like that. Now it's just I've bought DVDs and Blu-rays they're in my house that I've never even watched. I mean, I bought this one. I'm very excited about the whole Dollman box set, which I got. I watched any of them. It's been sitting on my shelf since like August. I really want to watch them because that's why I bought the set. But I'm like, it's there. Crazy.
So yeah, algorithm film, same as music. No one is writing good stories, and it's all sequels, money making machines.
Well, no.
To a certain extent.
Yeah, well, that's all anybody's watching though. That's the argument, isn't it? It's like, and you see that a lot where, and it's a common one that comes up where people at studios only make IP, they only make sequels, they only do remakes. And you go, okay, well, there's a lot. There's probably less remakes than there used to be, but when an original film comes out and shows in the cinema, you look at the box office figures, awful. Something like The Creator comes out, and you're like, that's a gorgeous looking film. Didn't make a lot of money. I don't know if Train Dreams was in the cinema or not, but I bet I didn't make a fortune if it was.
Netflix. But when we go over some of the films that we're looking forward to this year, the film, I'm not going to mention it now, but the film that I'm most looking forward to is a brand new IP. Nice. It's a film that's not part of a series or anything like that. And I've seen the trailer. I've known about the film since the middle of last year. And I've been so eager to see it, and it's finally being picked up by a distributor, and it's getting released this year. And it's my most anticipated film.
I mean, I love a sequel or an IP thing. I do enjoy them, but there's nothing more impressive than when you watch and it's usually indie films that are the unique ones. And you go, my God, that was amazing. I'm sure you were like that with Train Dreams. I'm sure you're like, that looks kind of interesting. I'll watch it, and then it blows you away.
Yeah. Which mostly, if you look at my best films of the year lists, most of them are new films, new IPs.
Yeah.
It's very rare that it'll be a sequel that will actually make my film of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know Neil's very excited about One Battle After Another. What's your thoughts on that
one? I liked One Battle After Another. I did actually put it in my top 10 list of 2025. So I did actually like. It's Paul Thomas Anderson's most approachable film. I personally think. Okay. It's a little bit more easier to get into because PTA has got this tendency to overblow his films just a little bit too much sometimes. And with this one, it's a more relatable subject. What's actually going on with the film itself, despite the length and despite the fact that where the film ends in its last 15 minutes, it has. Well, we know somebody who thinks it's horrible, but it is. It does have a bit of a sort of like a very PTA kind of ending attached to it. But yeah, overall, surprisingly, it was a film that I did actually like, specifically the car chase scene.
The car chase,
which
was this the one, the hills?
Yeah.
I remember watching that going, I mean, it's not Bullet or the French Connection or anything, but I'm like, there's something really cool about this car chasing sequence.
Yeah. Because he did it in a more stoic approach. It doesn't actually feel like a car chase in a way. It just literally feels like you're in the car.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of car chase films forget to do. If you look at Michael Bay, for example, Michael Bay is the master of set pieces. Despite the fact that I don't like him as a director, you can't argue in the fact that his set pieces aren't really well created or established. But he does them for action purposes. Again, going back to Greenland 2, for the big oomph, that big, huge, massive spectacle element. Whereas with the way PTA did the car chase element in One Battle After Another, it lasted a good 5 minutes with very little happening because the camera was more focused on the bonnet of the car, which made you feel like you're actually part of the chase sequence itself.
Yeah.
So you were going along with the ride itself, which made it feel like that little bit more special in a way, in the way we actually handled it. Nothing is different. With the film itself, you've seen it before in a multitude of different films, and probably is better. But as an overall feel of the film itself, the way it's connected, I thought he actually did a pretty decent job.
I mean, Neil's kind of right when he says it's pretentious. It's like, it kind of is, but I don't mind that. It's like you could, bloated and stuff. But I went into it thinking it was going to be like a really serious film, and it kind of isn't. It's like a really dark, weird, quirky, Coen-y brother type thing about it.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind it. I watched it and I enjoyed it, and I thought it's fine. It's not going to go in my top 10 of the year because it came out last year, and I'm going to try and have films that come out this year in my 10 by the end of December. But I'm playing catch up on a bunch of stuff, and I enjoyed it. I like Sean Penn. I'll watch anything that he's in. He was a weird, interesting character in that film, and I liked it. And I did a Facebook posting going, I watched it, and I quite liked it, and blah blah blah. And people were going mad. They still are on the internet. People are coming in going, it's woke. It's shoveling political agenda. They're getting really mad. One battle after another, and I'm like, it's not worth getting mad at. It's just, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, chill.
I definitely agree with you on the fact that Train Dreams is infinitely supreme, because that's why it was my favorite film of last year. But they're two different films. They're complete chalk and cheese, considering that Train Dreams is a more stoic film, and One Battle After Another, it would not be able to hand stoicism for 2 hours and 40 minutes, close to 3 hours. I think if Train Dreams was that long, we're not in the Apichatpong Rathical kind of territory, because he has a tendency to create films where it has very little element to it, but they last a good 2.5 hours long. Very stoic films. I don't think Train Dreams would have handled very well if that was the case. But yeah, it's an enjoyable film.
But it was, and it's a film, I think Neil said it as well, he didn't like it, but it's a film he'll probably rewatch at some point. It's probably a film, I think for me, I'm not necessarily going to rewatch One Battle After Another, but if it happens to be on like a TV channel or something, I'd go, oh, which bit are we up to? And I'd watch it that way. Question in the chat from Vex, what is your favourite war movie? That's not even a simple answer for me, because it depends on the type of war.
Mm-hmm. So if you're going like straightforward kind of things, I was never a fan of war films, because it was, again, the kind of films that was front and center on television in the 80s.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of things like John Wayne films, so westerns. It was either westerns or war movies.
Yeah.
And I think because the fact that they got shoved down my throat so much, that I'm not a huge fan of both westerns and war films, because they just felt like exactly the same kind of film, done over and over and over again. Like you couldn't fully differentiate a John Wayne film when it comes to Western films.
No.
So when it was war films, again, you couldn't differentiate the differences between them. Two shouts out there, Schindler's List and Das Boot, are good examples of war films where they actually feel different from each other. But for me, I like films like Jarhead. Jarhead is definitely a war film, which again is different from Schindler's List and Das Boot. In a way, technically, Grave of the Fireflies, the Studio Ghibli film that came out the same year as My Neighbor Totoro in 1988, an animated film, that is a war film because it is about two children surviving during Hiroshima. So I absolutely adore Grave of the Fireflies. So yeah, it just all depends. If it's kind of war film from, I would say probably around about the 50s to around about the 80s, you're guaranteed I'm going to forget it because they're just all blurred into one big homogenous same thing. But if it's something that it has a different feel to it, then I might remember it.
I think my ultimate favorite one would be Oliver Stone's Heaven and Earth, which came out and virtually nobody saw, which is a shame. And I ended up writing to Oliver Stone, talking about that, and he sent me a nice signed picture back. So shout out to Oliver Stone. That is more war film from a woman's point of view. She's a Vietnamese citizen, so it follows the war, that angle. Platoon, I'm always going to go for. And I think the more modern war movie, I'm going Ridley Scott's Black Hawk Down, which is kind of terrifying. There's something freaks me out more about urban warfare, with an enemy that doesn't wear a uniform, where you don't know who to trust. And again, something like Jarhead and a lot of the Middle Eastern.
And Warfare from last year
was amazing.
Just that encapsulated one sort of like territory film where it is just about the survival of soldiers in one area where they're just bombarded left, right, and centre. Hacksaw Ridge, for me, it's a two-parter film. One half of the film that worked for me. It's the latter half of the film that really didn't. But I sort of like got on with the first half. I didn't get on with the second half. So it's a two-pronged film for me, Hacksaw Ridge. But yeah, Warfare from last year, or Catherine Bigelow when she done stuff like The Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30.
Das Boot, I've seen one version of that. I've seen the 200-minute one that came out on DVD years ago. I really do want to go back and watch the TV version. It was either 6 episodes or 8 episodes, which is like the super long version of the Das Boot story. So at some point I'll track that down. I think that did come out on disc. So Hacksaw Ridge I enjoyed. It was fun. I think we spoke about that when we were talking about Flight Risk or something previously.
Which is a terrible film, Flight Risk.
But I do like war movies, but I mean, Schindler's List, if I was doing a collection of the best 250 films, I think Schindler's List would be in there, but it's not even close to my favourite 200, because it's not a film where I'm going, oh, do you know what? I'm in the mood to watch Schindler's List. It's not that type of movie, but I saw it at the cinema, and it was one of the weirdest cinema experiences ever, because everybody just shut the hell up for 196 minutes. Didn't speak. The credits rolled. Nobody got up. There was no rustling, nothing. It was the very weird atmosphere, but it was fitting for that film. Saving Private Ryan on the big screen was just mind-blowing.
Band of Brothers on the small screen.
Yes, Band of Brothers is amazing. So,
one of the best TV series ever made.
A film, then that would probably be one of my favourite ones. So it's an amazing mini series.
It's phenomenal. Even the Pacific at a push. It's not as good as Band of Brothers, but the Pacific is still really good.
It is. That's more horror, isn't it? I think the Pacific. I remember watching that. Once they get into them being worn down and running out of food and all that sort of stuff, you're like, this is just so grim. And then Masters of the Air, which was okay, but again is weaker than the Pacific, which is a little bit weaker than Band of Brothers. So.
Yep.
So what else? Bone Temple. Let's hear about the Bone Temple. Please tell me you didn't go dressed up as a Jimmy.
Nope. You decided to go for the two big hitters. Well, the third big hitter.
If you want, I'll let you choose.
The third big hitter I've got there is Hamnet, which obviously is Oscar Tarkin. And then I'll leave Primate because again that I've got a little question just to throw at you in regards to Primate. But yeah, I can talk about 28 years later, the Bone Temple. So just to prefix this, if people have not seen 28 years later, unfortunately there is spoilers. Because the only way to talk about the Bone Temple is to spoil 28 years later. So if people have not seen 28 years later, you're either going to have to mute it now if you listen to this live or fast forward after 28 years later, the Bone Temple. I'm not a one for spoilers, but again, like I said, it's hard to talk about the Bone Temple without mentioning what happens in the last 5 minutes. of 28 years later.
Mm.
So just to forewarn people. So just to jump onto that, at the end of 28 years later, Spike, or Alfie, who he's known as when he was on the island with his father, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, but Spike, when he decides to disengage from the island and seek his own refuge on the main island of the UK. For people who do not know the 28 franchise, it is set predominantly in the UK. There is one scene outside of the UK, what only happens in 28 weeks later. That happens in France at the end of the film, but it's predominantly set in the UK about the rage virus. So the rage virus was infected by a monkey in a lab at the start of the first film and got out and unfortunately ran amok through the UK, and the UK is now coordinated off. 28 years later was set 28 years later, surprisingly, after 28 weeks later. So this is set in around about 2030. And Bone Temple follows directly on from the Jimmies, which was headed up by Jack O'Connell at the end of the first part of this trilogy, where Spike thinks that he's actually safe. Unfortunately, he's run into more terror worse than the rage virus enemies. So this kicks off pretty much after 28 years later finished. It starts inside an abandoned swimming pool area, so a leisure centre. And that's in the first 5 minutes. If you didn't get it from the end of 28 years later, in the first 5 minutes of the Bone Temple, you realise how evil and nasty the Jimmies are, especially Jack O'Connell's character, who plays Sir Jimmy Crystal. One thing I do want to mention in regards to it is, obviously, a lot of people connect the Jimmies to Jimmy Savile and the atrocious atrocities that Jimmy Savile actually did. Yes, the film, the characters, the Jimmies, are fashioned off Jimmy Savile, but only Jimmy Savile up to a point. Jimmy Savile up to the point of when the virus hit in 2002, because it didn't come to light that what Jimmy Savile did until 2012. And in this world, they would have never known about it, because society collapsed society collapsed in 2002 when the rage virus took its gripped its teeth into. And even at the start of the first film, we see Jack O'Connell's character Jimmy Crystal as a child with some other children watching episodes of the Teletubbies, and the father beckoning the rage virus victims, I'm not calling them zombies because they're not zombies, into the church. And then the film itself goes on to establish the story of 28 years later. So this is, with it being set in 2030, the Jimmies would not have known of the atrocities that Jimmy Savile actually did. They're only fashioning themselves off Jimmy Savile because it probably would have been one of the few things that they did watch alongside the Teletubbies. And their ultimate, their other side of the things that they took their fashion from is the Power Rangers and the characters from the Power Rangers. It's also established in this film as well because Jimmy Crystal worships Satan. Satan, he believes, is his father. He has 7 minions, which to me established the facts that he's following the 7 deadly sins. And the only way somebody can be alongside him, and again, this is established in the first 5 minutes, is if one of the 7 is killed, and the person who kills that one of the 7 takes over them. So this is where Spike gets brought into the fold of the Jimmies, because he is tasked to actually go up against one of them, and he kills him, and he becomes one of the Jimmies. So the whole film itself is sort of like, in a way, a double-pronged movie. So it is about Spike with the Jimmies, helmed by Jack O'Connell, and then it's about Dr. Kelson's character, Ralph Fiennes. And so it's about him trying to find, in a way, a cure. That's his whole purpose. We've seen the Bone Temple itself and what he actually does there. There's a beautiful shot in the film. There is 2 actual shots in the film which I thought were absolutely fantastic. One of them is, we know from the first part of this that Kelson, he is a doctor that wants to help. And I'm not going to mention a part that happens in 28 years later, but he does something that helps. And his ultimate thing is, for example, when he's looking around for bodies, which he does in this one as well, he takes the body and then he coops the body down to the bones.
Yeah.
And then that's how the bones become part of what he deems as a graveyard for people to finally have a place to rest.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody to bury them. And that's the best way for him to do it. And there is a scene where he's cleaning off these bones and a butterfly just drops down onto one of the bones itself. And he looks at the butterfly and he's sort of like aghast at seeing a butterfly. And then it floats off. And so, in a way, because Danny Boyle said, yes, the third film is more about redemption and hope, that sort of like establishes the feel of what's going to happen in the third one. And then there's another scene which sort of like is completely on the opposite direction of it. I'll not explain the scene itself, just sort of like what happens. The camera comes out of a house and just stays focused on this house for a good 15 seconds. And you don't know what the hell is going to happen. And it can't, because it stays there, you think, oh, this is too long. But that's the whole purpose. It's sort of like gripped onto you is to say, you're watching this and what's going to happen next. You're going to see it. And so it makes you more frightful of what is going to happen. And it does a good job of doing that through the Bone Temple, thanks to the nastiness of Jimmy Crystal.
Yeah.
Because he's completely unhinged. And then in the latter half of the film, that's where the doubt sort of like creeps in, not just with Crystal, but with people who follow him as well. Is he a hack? Is he really the son of Satan? Does he really believe that? And in a way, at times, Crystal thinks that. And once he loses just one ounce of power, he becomes even more scary because he's scared. And if he's scared, then the whole film itself becomes more scary because he thinks he's untouchable. Like he's got this ultimate protection around him that he is there to kill more people than the rage victims or the rage virus will actually do. And so that's his whole purpose. He thinks he just needs to destroy rather than rebuild. Yet there are other people who are looking to just survive and rebuild. So it does a good job of sort of like marrying both of those elements together. It does falter slightly in the latter half, but there is one scene, you'll have seen little bits of it in the trailer itself, that happens in the last, I would say, 15, 20 minutes of the film, which is just unbelievably brilliant. Like the cinematography on this scene by Neil DaCosta is just outstanding.
Yeah.
It involves Iron Maidens and the song Number of the Beast.
Okay. Yeah.
And it is outstandingly phenomenal. Like there is so much horror, so much tension, humor, excellence, brilliance, aghast. It just melds of so many things together into that one scene. It is the best scene out of any scene in the entirety of the film franchise. Even the opening scene to 28 weeks later.
Wow.
Because that is an unbelievable scene, that with that pulse pounding music. With Robert Carlyle just running for his life and abandoning his family to survive. This scene in this one, it doesn't even feel left field because of the way the humor is sort of like interspersed in between the film itself as well. And it is just outstanding. It's such a memorable scene. So yeah, I did really like it. I was a defender of 28 Years Later because I really liked 28 Years Later.
Yeah, I saw people go mad at that. It was like the internet's like a thing of extremes now. It's like, you know, it's great, it's awful. I want my money back. I walked out after 3 minutes. You know, that sort of silliness. And it's like there was a lot of, it was divisive. And I went into it and I thought it was great. I still prefer 28 Weeks Later as my favorite of the ones I've seen so far. And I like 28 Days Later, but Weeks is my favorite one so far. But I enjoyed Years. And I'm looking forward to the Bone Temple.
Yeah, and also obviously because of the character of Jimmy Crystal and where he's grew up, he's got a Scottish twang to his voice. Jimmy is something different in Scotland, so you would find out as to the reason why he's got followers as well. So that's another reason why. So it goes a lot more deeper than people think, because on surface level you instantly think, oh, it's just them fashioning and using the evilness that came from Jimmy Savile. Part of it's true, the fashioning of Jimmy Savile. But the evilness from Jimmy Savile, they wouldn't have known about it.
I think the fact they've used it within the film is obviously using the evil of Jimmy Savile that came out post 2012. But like you said, with the characters, they're not using that evilness to fashion their gang colors, so to speak,
No,
because they wouldn't have
because
known about it. That's
no, they're just using it in a way of having something there which establishes themselves as being a cult.
yeah.
Or a group, because that's what they're latched on. If it is the Teletubbies, which there is a scene which involves a dance from one of the Teletubbies in this film, and the Power Rangers, which the way they acted at the end of 28 years later with the flips that they did before they killed all those rage virus enemies, and sort of like in a way that they dress in this one.
Yeah.
And the wigs of Jimmy Savile, they're looking at sort of like latched themselves more onto cults, but the evilness stems from Jimmy Crystal thinking that he is the son of Satan.
Yeah.
That's where the evilness comes from, and you do see multiple scenes where he is. It looks like he is talking to the devil himself, old Nick, because he does mention, "Oh, what does old Nick say? What is he telling me to do?" And so it establishes from that. But yeah, it's I really liked the Bone Temple, and then obviously it's setting itself up for part 3, which is being greenlit by Sony. They greenlit it before this actually came out. They did it last year. It was obviously obvious that it was going to happen, because this is tracked to make around about 25-30 million in its opening weekend in America.
Yeah.
If it goes past 100 million worldwide, then it's done its job.
Yeah.
Because that's its whole intention. So it'll easily surpass 100 million, despite the fact it's an 18 certificate in the UK. And there are scenes in it which do make it an 18. I was surprised that 28 years later got a 15, because it's very, very top end 15, like extremely top end 15.
Yeah.
Nia DaCosta just went, "This is an 18 film, and I'm going to do stuff in this film which makes it an 18. So
it was DaCosta that did the Candyman remake as well, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that was really good actually. So people
and then
bash
she
remakes, but that was pretty good.
She had a little dance with the MCU, but I'm glad that she's gone back to doing films that she wants to do. Because if you watch interviews with her, you can see how eager she is to talk about the Bone Temple, because it is something that she wanted to do. Whereas obviously with Marvel, it was just, I'm guessing for her, a paycheck, so she's able to do these smaller films.
Yeah.
So can't wait for the next one. There's no date of when the next one will be out. It'll be sometime next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a really good film.
Good. So what else you got on your list? I'll let you pick and choose now.
I'll drop a couple quickly. Stitchhead, which is an animated film aimed at kids. It's a horror film about sort of like the Frankenstein element, which we've got another Frankenstein film come out this year, Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride.
Looks good.
It's for, which is on my list of films to watch this year.
Be okay. Oh, there we go.
We're back again.
There we go. Don't know what happened there. Didn't even blink. But yeah,
the joys of live. But yeah, Stitchhead is solely aimed at kids. It's a year-rated film. It is just a sort of like a good way for kids to be able to actually get into horror films. It's about the character of Stitchhead, who was created by a Dr. Frankenstein character, and the town below the castle where it is. They're scared about what's actually in the castle, but Stitchhead wants to go away from there to make friends and join this circus where he is sort of like the main star. But obviously the person who's leading this circus has got other motives behind it. It's watchable for younger audiences. Outside of that, I don't think as an adult you'll actually get anything from it. And then We Bury the Dead, which is Daisy Ridley's new film. It's Australian or New Zealand-based film, again about a virus, zombie-esque kind of virus, which you don't see very much of it, because the whole point of the film is just about Daisy Ridley's character joining this group of soldiers in a way who go into towns and cities to go into homes and take out all of these victims of this virus to clean them out.
Okay.
But the whole reason why she's doing that is because she needs to get to a part in Australia. I'm sure it's set in Australia, to find a husband. She's an American, and the Americans were the ones who caused this virus. Right. So obviously there is a lot of hatred towards Americans, etc. in this film. No surprise. It's a very straightforward film. It's that thing when we mentioned at the start of the podcast, a forgettable film.
Yeah.
It is exactly one of those. Like, it's one of those films where you'll watch it, you think, oh, this is fine, and then forget about it because it doesn't do anything to make it stand out from what we've seen before. As a matter of fact, it actually languishes too much. We want to know about the survival of characters, but if you've got a threat, introduce the threat more often than it does, and it forgets about it sometimes.
How's Daisy though? Because obviously a lot of the
she's
internet
fine.
give her shit because they're mad at Star Wars and they blame her or whatever. But is she okay in it?
She's fine.
Good.
But again, it's nothing that stands out.
Yeah.
And then two final films, Hamnet and Primate.
Hamnet. I've heard people saying how good it is, but I couldn't even tell you what that film was about. I'm aware of it, but I've not seen a trailer. I couldn't tell you who's in it. Nothing.
Paul Mescal, Jessie Buckley.
Which I know you're a fan of Paul Mescal. Every time I hear the name Jessie Buckley, though, I think it sounds like a singer's name. I don't know why.
She was actually originally, surprisingly.
That's probably where I got it from then. I'm like, oh, she got into
acting. Can you remember
then?
the BBC talent show, I'll Do Anything?
Right.
Where they were trying to find a singer for Broadway.
Right. Okay.
Jessie Buckley auditioned on the first series of I'll Do Anything. So she is technically a singer. But it's based on Hamlet. It's based on Shakespeare's Hamlet. Right. So Hamnet was the name of it's interchangeable. It's a Chloe Zhao film, and she literally says that it's interchangeable between Hamnet and Hamlet. Hamnet is the name of William Shakespeare's son. And so the whole film is obviously set in Shakespearean times, and it is just about family, William Shakespeare, him trying to create the sonnets and poems and plays and things like that he did create, and his wife, Jessie Buckley's character in the film, and it's just about their survival. Something bad happens about halfway through the film, and then obviously it turns their relationship on its head, and that's pretty much about it. But it's a sumptuously, brilliantly acted film. It's actually brilliantly acted is doing an understatement. Both Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal are outstanding in the movie. Jessie Buckley is front runner to win the Oscar for Best Actress, and you can definitely tell why. Because of Hamnet. She appears again in Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride. She plays the bride in that, and she looks phenomenal in that. But she's outstanding in Hamnet, because there is one scene which is heartbreaking in Hamnet, and she gives it her all. Like, when actors really love playing the characters that they are playing, when you can actually see it on screen. And Paul Mescal is fantastic as William Shakespeare. The last 15 minutes of the film is the play of Hamlet. And there is an absolutely brilliant monologue from Paul Mescal as William Shakespeare that is just absolutely captivating. Like, as you mentioned when you saw Schindler's List, it was like nearly 3 hours of cinema being quiet.
Yeah, which
during
is
that
rare.
scene. During that scene there, you could easily hear a pin drop. It was that sort of captivating. The whole film is just outstanding. Everything from acting to costumes to cinematography to sound, just the way Chloe Zhao handles the film. It's a simplistic film. It doesn't push itself out its boundaries because it doesn't need to. It's just, it's a sumptuously, brilliantly, beautiful, well-made film.
Yeah. Okay.
So
it's deserved of its praise, is what I mean. Yeah.
And then the final film is Primate.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you know the film, anything about Primate.
It's the monkey. It's the nice chimp that turns into a bit of a lunatic chimp. What I can tell. Yeah.
It's directed by one of my favorite directors, Johannes Roberts.
Okay, what has Johannes done?
47 Meters Down, Strangers Pray at Night, Storage 26, When Evil Calls, films like that. So he's a British director. He did Resident Evil, the last Resident Evil film, which we've got a new one coming out this year, directed by Zach Kreger. But he did that. He's a director who I don't think he's a good director personally. But this is his film, and it is pretty much as you said there. It's about an ape who gets infected by a malarian-esque disease, and he goes on a murderous rampage.
Yeah.
So it is one of those films. It's set in a sort of like a very high-end homestead on the edge of a cliff with swimming pools and beautiful vistas and all that kind of stuff. Spoiled brats in a weir in this house, predominantly all female cast that have to try and survive against this killer ape who literally does rip jaws off people and stuff like that. So it is definitely, if you are sort of like in the mood for one of those kind of films, then it works. It is one of Johannes Roberts' best films. But that's not difficult. I think his best films is like 47 Meters Down is actually a decent film.
Yeah, it is.
I thought the second Strangers film, Strangers Pray at Night, it wasn't as good as the first, but it's not bad compared to Rennie Harlan's absolute car crash of a trilogy. Well, the third one's out next month.
Yeah.
But compared to his first two in the trilogy, which, by the way, Harlan has turned around and says that he wants to do his Kill Bill cut. And the fact that Quentin Tarantino went back and cut them both together, Kill Bill films, and it was released in cinemas as the ultimate cut late last year. Rennie Harlan wants to do that with his Strangers trilogy. He wants to meld them all together and make an ultimate cut.
That would work, but it's not going to make it a better film. If you like it, you like it. If you don't like them, you're still not going to like them, because they're Strangers 1 and Strangers 2 are pretty much following on from each other, and I can imagine the third one's following on. But Rennie, just stop. Do something else.
You're just doing a Zack Snyder with the Rebel Moon, and we know how that turned out.
I mean, I like the Rebel Moon's a weird one. It's like I enjoyed the theatrical cuts, even though they weren't the non super long ones. And I started to watch the super long ones, and I'm like, I don't need this. The Rebel Moon films to me don't need uber violence and nudity in them. It felt really out of place, so I ended up stop watching those.
Yeah, they're awful. But Primate, it's one of those surface movies that if you dig below the surface, you're not going to find anything at all. There is no like underlining message or anything like that attached to it. It is just an ape going absolutely ape and ripping people apart with a lot of stupid plot holes in it, which some scenes do not make sense. But overall, it's still Johannes Roberts' one of his best films. But for me, that's not really difficult. Leads on to the...
It's like Cocaine Bear, though, isn't it? You go, well, I went to see Cocaine Bear.
I didn't like Cocaine Bear.
Like, I want to go watch a film where a bear just snorts a big pile of coke and then just goes on a rampage. And that's what I got. And it was great. I loved it.
I didn't like Cocaine Bear or Crack Cocoon. Crack Cocoon is even worse, actually, which is a raccoon who gets into a bag of crack and goes on a killer rampage.
Amazing. Yeah.
So, I really didn't like that. But, it perfectly leads on to the question, because we're not critics. We never actually see it that we're critics.
No.
We just have an absolute passion for films and talking about films. But obviously, there are jobs out there for film critics, and the whole point of their job is to criticize films, review them, etc. Yes, there is a Crack Raccoon film.
I'm still chuckling at that title. Do you know what? That film could have come out and made no money whatsoever. I think somebody needs an Oscar for just coming up with the title Crack Raccoon. That's it.
Crack Raccoon.
I love it. It's amazing. So if I'm chuckling, that's what it is. I'm still laughing at that title. I didn't even know it was a thing till you mentioned it.
So back onto Primate then. So the thing is, it's come to light that there is a critic who went to see Primate. This is a critic that is a Rotten Tomatoes certified critic.
Yeah.
So in other words, all films that they review will go on Rotten Tomatoes and help towards the rating itself, rather than just a user. I don't know if you know the story about this, and it's come to light the fact that this critic walked out 30 minutes from the end of the film, yet he still reviewed the film and gave it a bad review. And so the ultimate question is, should a movie critic who does get paid to watch films be able to actually review a film that they've walked out of?
No, they shouldn't.
Or does it still give them the right to review that film, even if they did walk out of it and didn't see it till the ultimate end?
I think if you don't finish a film and it's your job to review movies, I mean, even if it's not your job to review movies, even if you've got some piece of shit Facebook page where you like movie blogs or whatever, and I have one of those. But it's like, and you walk out before that film's finished, your review should just be, I didn't like the film, I left before it ended, and that's it. Or maybe you could say, I didn't like the characters, it was annoying me. But you can't turn around and say the film sucked if you didn't finish it. Because so often I've watched a film where I'm like, I'm really not enjoying this. And then I get to the end and I'm like, oh, now I get it. And I've liked it a little bit more. But absolutely no, it's their job.
Yeah, because me personally, I've been doing podcasts for
like 15 years.
It's getting actually more close to 2 decades.
Yeah.
So yeah, just that message there.
Neil brings up a very good, which I knew that story. So basically, for those not in the chat, there was a film critic who was paid $400 to review a movie for their job, and they watched 20 minutes of it, because you can tell if it's an online screener, you can tell how long somebody's watched something. 20 minutes, and then slated the film.
Which is ridiculous.
Like, I admire what you do, Stu. And I was chatting to a friend of mine, Rob, the other day, and it still baffles me that you'll watch like a James Bond movie and you're not a massive James Bond franchise, but you go, I'll watch it. And I think we were talking about Avatar as well, where you weren't a massive fan of those, and then you watch the third one, and I'm like, I don't watch stuff that I don't want to watch. And I admire the fact that you will always finish a movie, even if it's awful. And I can't do that. But you can then turn around and go, I watched it, it was terrible, here's why.
I've never switched a film off. Even when I did twice technically fall asleep during a film in the cinema. One was George of the Jungle. One was Avengers Age of Ultron. The only reason why I fell asleep to Age of Ultron was because it was very late at night. I went to see a double bill, and the cinema cranked the heating up so much so that it pretty much sent us to sleep.
Yeah.
But I didn't give my thoughts in regards to Age of Ultron. Andy reviewed that. Yeah. And so he reviewed that. And so I had the option, and I did. I've watched the entirety of Age of Ultron before I officially reviewed it for the Blu-ray and DVD section. I gave my thoughts on what I saw, elements of it, but didn't give my ultimate sort of like overall conclusion of what I thought about the film itself. And with George of the Jungle, this was well before I actually even started doing podcasts. And I rented it when it came out on DVD, and I hated that film. But yeah, I will sit down even if I absolutely detested the film. For example, the worst film of last year that I watched, which was Scissors, which is on Tubi. I knew that I was going to absolutely hate the film after the first 5-10 minutes, because it just, the way it started was atrocious. And I knew that I wasn't going to like the film from that point onward. Yet I still watched it all, because there is that element of you that you've alluded to. You might hate the film, and then there might be an element of the film where it actually pushes just above hate, and you might like an element of it. So I will still watch it. I've seen all the 50 Shades of Grey films. Not my cup of tea at all. Yeah, I've seen all 3. So I watched it. I've seen pretty much every single Smurfs film. I watched Jack and Jill from beginning to end. So I've sat through all of the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies. I've watched all of those.
Think of all the good movies you could have rewatched instead of watching all of them, though.
If somebody like me, who's a huge, massive, hardened horror fan, will gladly sit through every single Hellraiser film and every single Puppet Master film and every single Leprechaun film, no matter how awful they are, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies and stuff like that, I will never, ever, even on my Letterboxd, I will never put a rating of a film that I've not seen from beginning to end.
No, same.
I will not do it.
If I put a movie on and I'll bail out within 40 minutes because I'm hating it, it doesn't go on the list of films I've seen.
Same.
Yeah, because
I'll refuse to put on my list.
You didn't finish it. So.
Exactly. So if you're a movie critic and get paid to actually do it as your job, do your goddamn bloody job or get a different one. Yeah. It's as simple as that. Don't do it for a living. Do it as a hobby then, if that's the case, if you're not going to sit through the entirety of the film. You're getting paid to review somebody's work, somebody's hard work. Yes, you might not like it. That's fine. That's an opinion of yourself. You're giving that opinion so other people can make their minds up of whether they want to go and see the film or not. That's the whole point of your job.
Yeah.
So do your God, because if I did that with my job, just like tried to save somebody's home insurance or car insurance and only did it halfway through and just went to the person, can't be bothered with this anymore, and just hang up the phone, I'll be fired.
Yeah.
So have that mentality. You've got this job for a reason. There is a lot of people out there who would love to do what you're doing. Me being one of them. I would love to be paid for actually going to see, no matter what kind of film. I would gladly sit through a 5-hour movie on shipping crates. If it is that I paid for it to actually review it.
Same.
And I will review it.
Same. Yeah. I always maintain it's like my least favorite genre is musicals. But if somebody pays me to start up a podcast about how great musicals are and how there's a lot of good ones out there, absolutely, sign me up. I'm starting that on Monday. So yeah, I take my job very, very seriously when I have one. So yeah, but no way. They shouldn't. Their only review should be, I went to see it, I wasn't enjoying it, and I left. That's it. That's all their thoughts should be on that. But I'm glad to see it kind of blew up in their face and people were giving them lots of crap for it, because rightly so.
And now Rotten Tomatoes needs to revoke his verified Rotten Tomatoes badge or something like that until he can actually prove that he is sitting through the entirety of a film itself and reviewing it. He shot himself in the own foot anyway by saying that he actually walked out with 30 minutes left.
Just
exactly. How would people know unless people know who you are and actually seeing you and go, "Oh, I know that movie critic. He's walked out this film." If they're in the same screening as him, they would have nobody would have known. So you could have lied. Yeah, it would have been horrible if you did, but it wouldn't have come to light. So
and the thing is,
don't
it's
put
like
it
if
out
it's
there.
your job to watch movies and you're sitting in a screening room and you're watching it and it sucks and you hate it. How hard is it just to do this and pretend you're watching it? How long have I got? 20 minutes. Oh yeah, no, I didn't like that film. But to then publicly go, yeah, I walked out. They're trying to be a funny fecker, basically, by going, I walked out because it was that bad and it's blown up in their chops. So good. Get them revoked.
Good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my movies.
And it's like, because it's the thing is, it's like, movies are, I don't pay attention. I'll pay attention to reviewers and reviews. And I'll take a recommend. I'd never heard of Train Dreams until you mentioned it before, on the end of the year show. So I'll take that as, I'll check that out. And then I know Neil's watched it based on what you said, and he liked it. So it's snowballing. So you're doing better than that Rotten Tomatoes critic. But if you watch a film and you say it's terrible, that's not going to make me go, well, actually, I was looking forward to that, but we'll watch it now. There's no critics that would put me off watching something that I want to watch, but I will take recommendations from people who watch films that way. But why people still pay attention to Rotten Tomatoes scores or IMDb ratings, I do not know. It baffles me.
To this day, the only thing I use IMDb for is just to get a bit of information. So who directed the film, who starred in the film, so some character names, potentially the box office, because it's a good, quick way to find out what the box office was of that film itself. Yeah. It's a good little barometer of that. But I don't read or pay attention to the ratings of the film itself. I'll watch the film on my own merit.
Because it's like, people who go, oh, I'll look at this. Oh, look, that's got a 2.3 out of 10. I'll skip it. No. You and I often watch films that you despise and I really like. And that, and vice versa and stuff. It's just like, films are so subjective that just because you see a number on a website, whether it's Tomatoes or whether it's IMDb, doesn't necessarily mean that all those people are on the same page as you. Shall we jump into Dr. Plague?
You can do.
Which is, again, that's a film that, beyond you saying you didn't like it, I don't know anything beyond that, because we save it all for this. And it's a film I enjoyed and had fun with and entertained me for like 85 minutes or whatever. We're on polar opposites, I'm guessing.
Yeah, pretty much.
You look at the IMDb page, and it was on like 3 point something because it had been review bombed by a lot of people for whatever reason, who hadn't seen the film because it hadn't come out at that time. So it's like, watch a film, make your own mind up. For the love of God. I kind of hate the internet film community. It's worse on Facebook now. X used to be, and I know you bailed out of X, but X used to be like a right crap show. But the way that platform's set up, you'll only see that in hashtags. But on Facebook, if you do a posting going, "Hey, I watched one battle after another, I enjoyed it. What did you all think?" Your thing turns into a war zone, and it's all still there. There's a whole community of people just bashing stuff and being so crazy. It's unbelievable. But Dr. Plague, new British film that's come out. It's the only film I've seen this year that's a 2026 movie. So technically, it's the best new film I've seen this year so far. I know it's the only one, so it probably won't be in my top 10 once December comes around, because there is a lot of good stuff coming out around the corner. Stars Martin Kemp. I think Martin Kemp's always watchable. He's just one of them people I'm like, hey, it's Martin Kemp. Let's see what Martin Kemp's doing. I don't know if there's an Oscar in his future, but he was good in The Craze, and I like seeing the guy. He just looks like from all accounts, I know people who have worked with him, he's a nice guy. So it's like, I like Martin Kemp. I'll watch Martin Kemp's story. David Yip's in there, who I rewatched, like The View to a Kill, one of the Bond movies. He's in that. I'm like, hey, it's David Yip from the Bond movies. So I sat down and watched the film. Not necessarily not expecting too much, but just entertain me for an hour and 25 minutes, and I'm all good. It's a very basic plot line where Martin Kemp plays a detective. He's on the case of this serial killer called Dr. Plague, who's slaughtering people in London, a lot of the time on an industrial estate. For some reason, there's a lot of metal containers in this movie. And he hooks up with a journalist, and they're like, we need to try and find Dr. Plague. We need to track him down. That's it. That's pretty much the plot. The costume design I thought was good. The film itself was fine. It was the sort of film, and I think I put it in one of my reviews, where it's the sort of movie that the characters from the first Scream movie would be watching on the TV, pointing at it and shouting at it, going, what are you doing that for? Don't be an idiot. He's behind you. It's very pantomimey. And I had fun with it. I thought it was fine. I liked it. And then you'd watched it, and you hated it.
Pretty much. The only thing I actually liked about the film was the Plague Doctor costumes.
That was good costume.
Because I did like the fact that they had the idea of, because they could have just went with normal looking Plague Doctor masks and that's it. But I did like the fact that they added their own little element to it with the green tinted hue. So it actually worked. That was pretty much it. The rest of the film for me was just, acting wise, was, no offense, but absolutely awful. Okay. It was very pantomime.
Yeah.
But it was the kind of pantomime where you just slap on your forehead. And you remember back in sort of like the 80s when they used to show pantomimes on TV, and you had the usual cast like Les Dennis in it or something like that.
And it would be, and all them.
Yeah, they were being so beyond cheesy. As an adult now, you would just look at it and go, for God's sakes, that was the kind of acting on show in this.
Is there not a place for that, though? Because, I mean, this isn't trying to be David Fincher's Seven or Joel Schumacher's 8mm or something.
The way I look at it is, I look at the acting based on the film that they're in, not based on films that actors have won Best Acting for. That's the way I look at it. So I look at it from the film's point of view. And the film's point of view is the fact that it is meant to be a very low budget movie. So you are to expect that the acting is not going to be Oscar-worthy acting, but you still need it to be acting, whereas rather than reacting. Because it felt like to me that they were only reacting to words on a script, not acting to the words on a script.
Okay.
So it just felt like they never actually had characters before that they had to play seriously.
Yeah.
And it just, the decisions and dialogue that they made and said was just very, very low, sort of like bar level kind of things. Like the kind of stuff that you would have been given as a first like player or a first attempt at creating a film in your film class in college or university. I felt the structure of the film did not work at all because it was constantly tripping over its own feet to try and sort of like again, pull the rug under you. They're the kind of thing where it wants to try and establish, oh, we're going to have a twist or make it that tense nature of it or whatever. And it never felt like it did that. It was constantly falling over itself. To try and had that bit of oomph into it. I just thought the kills were very low rent, very, very basic.
Yeah.
The look and feel of it just felt like, no offense, but there was no care or attention took to it as well. That absolutely none. And then that twist at the end of the film in the last like 15 minutes, you could see it from a million miles away, an absolute million miles away.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just nothing worked apart from the costume design for me in the film itself.
I thought the costume design was good. I think watching a lot of the characters on screen, it looked like they were having fun playing those characters, which is always quite nice.
I didn't even get that.
You out of the film though, but
I didn't even get that.
No,
I felt like they were just there because it was something to pass the time away to do.
Okay.
I just felt like they didn't want to play any of the roles that they were playing. So no offense. I liked Halloween. I thought Halloween was.
I think definitely Halloween's better.
Halloween was that kind of film where you're expecting a cheesy, old school / a kind of back to basics, nothing too challenging horror film. That's what Halloween felt like. This felt like it was students trying to imitate that and failed. So unfortunately for me, it is, I've only seen 9 films this year, including that end of year one, but it is the lowest rated film I've seen this year. So technically for me, it's the worst film I've seen this year.
So I've got it as the best one I've seen this year that's come out in 2026, and you've got it as the worst. There were a few scenes where the Dr. Plague wasn't exactly subtle in walking around. He didn't seem to give 2 monkeys, because there was a few scenes he was like walking around in daylight with that costume on. You're like, dude, hide. Somebody's going to see you. And people are like, oh, look, there's Dr. Plague. So there was a few scenes of that which made me chuckle. But yeah, no, Halloween is better. Halloween's darker, a bit more, felt a lot more serious. And I mean, that had comedic stuff in it, to be fair, anyway. But I had fun with it, and it was just like, I don't know when I stopped. I don't think I ever started. I've never got to the point where I get really annoyed by watching a film, even if I don't like it. Oh, that's terrible. I don't let it raise my blood pressure up that much that it makes me angry.
It's very rare that it's done that with me. There has been a couple of films where I've been angry at the movie itself. For example, Adam Sandler's The Cobbler, which, because it's one of that films where it manipulates you, and I hate being manipulated. I hate feeling like I am being manipulated in supposedly going to be watching one thing, yet it turns out to just be a cynical movie. I hate cynicism. And it does very rarely happen to me. And if a film ever does that to me, and I've always said this when I create my top 10 worst films of the year list, will guaranteed to be in that because of that, because I hate feeling angry at a film. And so it's very rare that that actually happens. But even with films like Jack and Jill, movies like that, I've hated the film, but I've never been angry at it. I'm probably annoyed at myself for watching it, but I've never felt angry at it. So it's rare that it happens. But with something like a Dr. Plague, it just does nothing for me at all. So
no, I think with a film like Dr. Plague and quite a lot of movies that I watch nowadays, and is I'll watch them and it'll entertain me enough, and then at the end of the hour and a half or the hour and 25, it'll be like, well, that was fun. Right, what am I going to have for tea? What am I going to do tonight? What's the next film I'm going to watch? And I'm okay with that. I don't need, I won't say you do, but it's like, I don't need every film to be absolutely amazing. But you go online and you're like, people just expect every film to be like, this needs to change my life. And it's like, that's not the way movies work. I remember going into the video store many, many times, and when I worked in one, and I would put a film on, I'm like, let's see what this is about. I'm like, ugh. Constantly, a lot, unless it was like a big IP type thing. Most films were like, forget about it. And I quite like that. I'm okay with film, not every film being wow, that was really good. That needs to go on a list. But I
Yeah,
enjoyed
well,
Plague. I thought Plague was fine. But
according to Neil, Precious raises his blood pressure. So I'm guessing he's
Precious is a tough film to watch. That's
yeah,
not a popcorn movie by any chance, Neil.
very much is. That's the Gabriella Sidibe film, isn't it?
Yes, it's where somebody's day sucks and then just gets worse, and then just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Yeah, that's crazy.
But that's the thoughts with Dr. Plague.
But yes, it's out now anyway. If you like, watch Martin Kemp running around being a detective. It's fine. I liked it. So
yep.
When are we doing our films coming out this year? Do you want to do that in a future episode?
We'll just quickly go over them now because we're at the end of January, so might as well get a few of them out the way with now.
I'm trying to find my spreadsheet. I'm sure I had one.
Again, old school person that I am, I've got all mine written down on a piece of paper.
Yeah, I was putting mine in a spreadsheet just so. There we go. Right, I've got mine. Mine's just like really quick. So I did mine like a month ago. So should we do it month to month and just rattle down? Are we just going to rattle down the ones that we think look good?
Can do, yeah. So just to quickly in January, because Rental Family's out now, which is the new Brendan Fraser film.
Yeah.
And then you've got a couple of more films because I'm interested in Return to Silent Hill.
Yep.
Christoph Gans is back as director for it. So him who did the first film, not the second film. The second film's terrible, but it is one of those films where it's one of the only films that Sean Bean doesn't die in it.
Wow, that's a rarity. Yeah.
And then you've got Paul Mescal cropping up again with Josh O'Connor in a film called The History of Sound, which is set during World War One. And it's about a couple of people who are in a relationship played by Mescal and O'Connor, who their whole thing is to interview people to capture their voice, to voice the sounds of what World War One is actually like, or living during the war. And that's out on the 23rd. And Nouvelle Vague, which is a new Richard Linklater film. That's out at the end of the month on the 30th with an animated film that I'm looking forward to called Another World. So that's out on the 30th.
Wow.
That's what I've got for
Your
January.
list longer than mine. I did my list like end of last year. Dr. Plague, which I've seen. 28 years later, The Bone Temple. Look forward to that. Return to Silent Hill. Greenland 2. The Rip, which is now on Netflix. Send Help, which I believe comes out this month. And Primate, which I've got. Those are my January ones that I've got so far.
Send Help's out on the 30th. The reason why I didn't put Greenland 2 on it, not because the fact that I've seen it, is because it doesn't have an official UK release date. It is out in America, but it has no official UK release date, so I didn't pop it on the January one. Into February, I've got a lot actually written down. So Twinless is out on the 6th, along with The Chronology of Water, which I'm really looking forward to, which is Kristen Stewart's directorial debut, which looks fantastic. The Strangers Chapter 3, yes, I'm a sucker for it. I will go see it. That's out on the 6th. Little Amelie, which is an animated film, which I cannot wait to see. So that's out on the 13th, along with finally the Looney Tunes film. That's out on the 13th.
Yeah, good.
And then you've got The Secret Agent out on the 20th, called Stories, which looks like a fun, cheesy horror film. That's out on the 20th. The Rose Byrne film, If I Had Legs, I Would Kick You, which I really do. I can't wait to see that film. Along with Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, which looks absolutely batshit crazy. Yeah. Which I cannot wait for that one. And then on the 27th, it's a lovely day for me on the 27th, because not only is it Scream 7, that's out on there, but the new Resident Evil game is out. Resident Evil Requiem is out on the 27th of Feb. So for me on February, I've got some films on here. I can't even tell you what they're about, but when I made the list, I was obviously interested to put them on the list. So Scream 7, Goat, can't remember that, the greatest of all time. Wuthering Heights is out, another remake of that. The Sheep Detectives, The Strangers Chapter 3, and a film called Whistle are the ones I've got down as February. Yeah, Whistle is the Corin Hardy film, which is a horror film, which is about a whistle. If you watch the trailer, that when they blow it, evil things happen. Actually, it's pretty decent, Whistle. Corin Hardy is one of the most unique people I've ever met. A very unique gentleman, shall we say? Yeah. So I'm looking forward to Whistle. It looks interesting. Yeah. This is where, for me, the lists get shorter. So you'll be glad to know it was just February. But I do have a list of some films that don't actually have a release date. but are out this year as well. So March, just 3 films that take my attention. One of the most anticipated films for me is out in March, which is The Bride, which is Maggie Gyllenhaal's film.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the splatterpunk kind of Tank Girl feel of the film, because it does remind me of Laurie Petty and Tank Girl.
Yeah.
Maggie Gyllenhaal's the Jessie Buckley plays the bride in that one. Hoppers, which is the new Disney Pixar film, that's out on the 6th, and Project Hail Mary, which is the Russo brothers film out on the 20th.
I've got also on that. I've got Ready or Not 2, which again, some of these might be American dates, and Peaky Blinders: The Immortal Man, the Peaky Blinders conclusion movie thing, limited cinema release. But
the Ready or Not 2 is an American release date, because in the UK it's out on the 10th of April.
Wow.
So that's why it's in my April list. So along with that is Super Mario Galaxy movie, because we know that's going to do absolute gangbusters. Rose of Nevada, which is the new Mark Jenkins film, which I like him as a director because he shoots a lot on 15mm and 30mm, and you know how much of a sucker I am, and it's got beautiful George McKeer in it. And so any film with George McKeer in it, I will see.
Amazing. Yeah.
And then the one that has obviously got the horror community up in arms and wanting to see, because supposedly during test screenings, it absolutely got slammed, and that's Lee Cronin's The Mummy. And then they dropped the trailer. Supposedly the film's going to change its name to The Resurrected, but when the trailer got dropped, it kept with the title of Lee Cronin's The Mummy.
Yeah.
The trailer looks interesting. I'm really eager to see it. So
the only other one I've got on that you haven't mentioned is Michael, which again maybe just an American release, but we're getting the who knows, part 1, I'm guessing, of the Michael Jackson biopic by Antoine
and then
Fuqua.
Moving into May, one film you did mention was The Sheep Detective, because it's out here in the UK on the 8th of May.
Okay.
So all of mine that I did are actually UK release dates.
Whereas a lot of mine are probably American. So.
And then 3 other films to note. Again, the second most eager film that I want to see this year, horror related, so in my horror list, is Hokum, Damian McCarthy's film, which even though he did Oddity, which I wasn't a huge fan of Oddity compared to a lot of people, I still liked Oddity.
Yeah.
Hokum, the trailer of it looks so good. So I cannot wait for Hokum, which is out on the 1st of May. Mortal Kombat 2, which is out on the 15th. And The Mandalorian and Grogu, even though I've not watched The Mandalorian, is out on the 22nd of May.
Yeah. Are you going to go and watch The Mandalorian and Grogu? I would say no, because if you've not seen the TV series, you're not going to have a clue what's going on, because it's a continuation.
Probably will, because it's me. So probably, like, for example, I reviewed the Downton Abbey films and I had not seen a single episode of the TV series.
Did they work though? Did they work for you? Because Downton Abbey is slightly different than that. I mean, obviously it continues, but it's pretty much a bunch of people in a house.
I understood where it was coming from. So if it is something that I can watch, that I can actually understand potentially what's happened previously, which is obviously the way they're going to do The Mandalorian Grogu, because they're not going to release a film of that note in the cinemas if it's only just for fans of the TV series. They're going to have elements in there which enables newbies to actually come to it, to actually watch it. So there'll be enough in it. I know of the character of the Mandalorian. I definitely know of the character of Grogu. Yeah. So at least I'm not going in completely blind.
No. And then I've got down in May The Devil Wears Prada 2.
Moving to June, Masters of the Universe, just because I'm intrigued on how car crashy it is going to be. Even though it's an Amazon film, it's probably more likely to be one of those very rare Amazon films which will have a theatrical release. Because of how big it is, they will not just shadow drop this onto Amazon. Disclosure Day, which is the new Spielberg film, is out on the 12th.
Yeah.
The new Scary Movie. Supposedly going back to the feeling of the original 2 Scary movies rather than the absolute crap that came after. Toy Story 5, even though I do not want to go and see it because I didn't like Toy Story 4. That's out on the 19th of June. And Supergirl is out on the 26th.
You've covered my list in its entirety there.
July, Minions 3, because it's absolutely going to do huge, massive gangbusters, along with The Odyssey. That's going to do huge, massive gangbusters on the 17th. Evil Dead Burns, which is the next Evil Dead film. Can't wait, which is out on the 24th. And Spider-Man Brand New Day is out on the 31st of July.
That's my list too. You're doing well here. Saving me work.
Moving into August, you've got the new Cliffhanger, which again, I'm not a fan of the first one, but I'm just intrigued on how car-crashy it's going to be. And then the only other one I've got in August is the new Insidious film, Insidious: The Bleeding World.
I've got Insidious, which I think is the 6th one, and then a film called Flowervale Street. Can't even remember what that's about, but it piqued my interest, obviously, enough to put it in a spreadsheet. So,
with that, I think I know that one. I'm just man looks on IMDb very quickly.
I don't want to lean over and do IMDb because I'll knock my iPad off its stand. That's why I'm being a bit lazy on that one.
Yes, I forgot to pop that Vale Street on my list because it's the Ewan McGregor film.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor and Anne Hathaway film, directed by David Robert Mitchell, who did It Follows, and it's set in the 80s, and dinosaurs or monsters do start to appear, but it's rumored to be part of the Cloverfield universe.
Nice. I mean,
I completely forgot about that film, but as soon as you mention it, I know that movie. But yeah, it's supposed to be a secret film with inside the Cloverfield universe. So wonderful. I am intrigued, very intrigued by Flowervale Street. September again, I've only got 2 films. Clayface, which is on the 11th, the only DC film that I've got apart from Supergirl got an interest in because it's a horror film written by Mike Flanagan.
Mm-hmm.
And the new Resident Evil film, which I cannot bloody wait for it because it's directed by Zach Krieger, who did Weapons and Barbarian, and who did an interview yesterday where he turned around and he has said that this has got nothing to do with the characters from the games itself, which is fine. I'm okay with that because they've tried to do that with the previous films. Because we have seen Wesker, etc., show up in the previous films, and so I'm glad he's taken his own route. But he has said it's got a similar kind of tone to Weapons and Barbarian, and that's intrigued me even more.
Nice. The only other film I've got in September that you've not mentioned, Practical Magic 2.
Pass. That's why I didn't mention it. Yeah. October, a triple bill I've got is Digger, which is the new Tom Cruise, Alfonso Cuarón film. Jessica Chastain stars in a horror film called Other Mommy, which I've got a real interest in that movie. And Street Fighter 2 is out on the 16th.
I've got a film called Remain, Terrifier 4, and The Social Reckoning, the follow-up to The Social Network.
Yeah, I had Terrifier 4 because it was only just... I had it originally in my unknown list, but it was only just announced by the director that it is coming out in October.
Yeah,
because it was an unknown. And then November and December, I just melded them together because the only ones of note from what I wrote down was the new Hunger Games film, Sunrise on the Reaping, which is out on the 20th, and Avengers Doomsday and Dune Part 3 are out on the 18th of December, both on the same day. So it's Doomsday.
November, the Hunger Games, Focker-in-Law, so we're getting more Meet the Parents, the Narnia movie by Greta Gerwig.
Yeah.
December, I've got Jumanji 3, apparently, of the reboots, Avengers Doomsday, Dune Part 3, Werewolf, and Violent
Which is
Night.
not out in the UK in December.
Go to America
on the 25th of December, UK on New Year's Day, the 1st of January. So it's a 2027 film.
Violent Night 2 is the final one I've got. Which
I thought the first one was okay. So
John Wick with Santa Claus, you can't go wrong.
Exactly. And then I've got a couple of films. True. Couple of films that of note, including, as I said, the one I'm going to leave to last because this is my most anticipated film of the year. So Terrifier 4, as I said, I had it down as my unknowns, but it is coming out in October now. The new Pinocchio film, Pinocchio Unstrung, which is part of the Twisted Universe, but the quality of it has gradually gotten better and better and better. So I can't wait for this one. It's got Robert Englund in it. So when you've got Robert Englund in it, even though he has been in some very questionable movies in the past, there is still going to be intrigue there, and they're using full animatronic and puppets when it comes to Pinocchio himself as well. So that's why it's shot one there. I didn't write this down, but there is going to be a third Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movie because the Poohniverse United film was supposedly slated for this year. It hasn't begun shooting. It's coming out next year. As I mentioned, Werewolf, which is out January 2027 for us.
Yeah.
The new Iron Lung film, directed by Markiplier. It's out in America at the end of this month. We have no UK release dates. It's based on the video game. It's a very, very gory horror film. So gore and horror, me, yes. The Backrooms, which is based on the video game, and it's directed by the guy who created the video game as well. Which, if you know your sort of like mythology with those kind of things, with the Backrooms, it is just about a group of people who get dropped in this unknown place, and they have to try and escape. And there's a malevolent being, sort of like trying to get them. Okay. You've got Playhouse, which is another horror film. A lot of these are horror films, by the way. No surprise, which is supposedly coming out in the first half of this year. But yeah, it's got an intriguing plot to it. Yes, you do have another Steamboat Willie horror film called Steamboat Killie.
Yeah, not watching it. No.
And before this podcast, I watched the trailer for the new Betty Boo film. Because there is a Betty Boo horror film coming out as well by ITN, who's been doing all of these awful horror children's IP films. They're releasing the new Betty Boo film. And you've got the sequel to Shiver Me Timbers, which is one of the worst horror films I saw last year, where Olive Oyl and Betty Boo was actually going to be part of Shiver Me Timbers. So I've not finished with these children IPs being turned into horror film stuff.
Call it quits and just rewatch some of your favourite films ever. Life even though
there was
better for you.
Even though there was one from last year which I didn't watch, which was based on Captain Hook, and I watched the trailer and I just went, even this is too bad for me to watch.
Wow.
But if I see it on Tubi or Amazon Prime, which is probably where it's going to drop, I'll watch it. You've got a horror film called They Will Kill You, which the trailer for it looks so good. Psycho Killer as well, which is a horror film centers around a killer. And you've got a new Night of the Living Dead, which is supposedly the true sequel to Night of the Living Dead.
Right.
So that's coming out this year as well. And then there's probably a lot more films that I forgot. And then my most anticipated film is a horror film that I've been following for a good while. It's called Undertone, which is about these podcasters who listen to eerie sounds and create podcasts and obviously go to places where these sounds are captured from. It absolutely blew a storm at Fantasia Fest last year. Like everybody who watched it at Fantasia Fest absolutely loved it. So it wasn't one of those horror films where most people loved it and then one or two people were just going on, this is just Hokum. No offense, I know there's a film called Hokum, but this was a bad film. But everybody has said that this film is one to look out for. And the trailer, I knew about the film last year, and I was hoping it was going to get released last year, and it has actually officially been picked up by A24, and it is out this year, and it looks outstanding. Like it looks extremely creepy. So I cannot wait for Undertone. So Undertone is technically my most anticipated film of this year.
And then there'll be a whole bunch of films that we don't even know about yet, more so in the indie world, that just pop up and you're like, oh, that one. So
yeah, definitely.
But it's a pretty good overview of films. You know, there's a lot coming out this year. There is.
Oh yeah,
it looks like it's a pretty good year, certainly for releases. Whether it's a good year for the films themselves, who knows? But
as I said, very close to the start of the podcast, there are a lot of films where you can look at and think that's got a chance of making $1 billion at the box office.
Yeah.
Like for example, the Super Mario Galaxy film. That's probably going to get close, if not to crack $1 billion. You look at things like Minions 3. That's got a big chance.
Even Avengers things like easily. Doomsday.
The Odyssey.
I don't think the Odyssey, personally.
The Odyssey is going to be very close. Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to be very close as well.
Yeah.
Toy Story 5, that's going to get crosser. The only slight doubt I've got was with Avengers Doomsday is it's only got 12 days to get past the $1 billion mark in 2026 because it's out on the 18th of December.
Yeah. And so the film itself
will easily pass $1 billion.
Yeah, but
it won't pass $1 billion in 2026.
Yeah.
Because Doom Part 3, that will probably do the same because a lot of people will do Doomsday. Because they'll see Avengers Doomsday and Doom Part 3 back to back, like they did with Barbenheimer, with Barbie and Oppenheimer. So they'll do that. Even the new Hunger Games film has got a chance of getting close to $1 billion. So there are films out there which which we can see the billion mark being hit more than a couple of times this year.
And we shall see how it plays out. I'm sure the internet will still be grumpy at everything, and
oh yeah,
I wish I can't. Obviously, we do a lot of chatting and stuff on social media and stuff, but part of me wishes I could just step away from the Facebooks and the X's and go, do you know what, sod them. But it would make what I do very awkward if I did that.
Yeah,
but
I'll still stick with Letterboxd, just because Letterboxd for me is a nice little place to catalogue my films. Yeah. I don't sort of like go out of my way to read reviews on Letterboxd. I only go onto Letterboxd once I've actually seen the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can actually rate it. Then I might look at a few other people's misgivings or praises of a film itself. So that's what I like about Letterboxd, because you have to physically hunt out the reviews on Letterboxd of the film. They're not front and center.
Yeah,
you see the star rating, but that's it. So for me, Letterboxd is, if I get rid of them all, that'll be the one that stays. And they've got that Letterboxd movie store, which thanks to them, I was able to see It Ends, which It Ends we can throw. Technically, I can throw on this list as well, because It Ends gets a physical cinema release in the UK this year by, again, A24, because they're the ones who snapped up and bought it. And it's phenomenal. I want more people to actually see It Ends.
Cool. But that's a good list. We've packed a whole lot into this near 2 hours, so a little bit longer than normal, but that's fine. It's all good.
And I've got a cat who is wanting my attention.
Yeah, I've got a cat that's washing himself in a very private place at the minute. Hey,
so there's the first view of Aussie for 2026. See if he actually reacts to the screen there.
Look at that. We've got 2 cats. Should we just get these 2 cats to just start a podcast?
Probably, yeah.
That would work. They get more views than we do, but maybe. I don't know.
And then he just decides to sit on my knee.
Yeah, mine's just legging it now because I dared to pick him up.
He wants food.
This afternoon,
then? Well, I'm off work for the next couple of days, which is nice, because, as I said, I've got the Lord of the Rings double bill to do tomorrow. So today I'm just chilling out as much as I can. Cats, but I'm not.
I don't know if he's calling us that, or whether he's referring to the cats that have just been on the camera. Who knows?
He's right on both aspects.
He's right on both, pretty much.
So I'm just going to watch the football from 3 o'clock to 3 o'clock kickoffs, because the saddo that I am, even though my team doesn't play until tomorrow. I'm playing a video game that is frustrating the hell out of me, yet it's one of those games that grabs hold of you and you can't stop playing. It's called Baby Steps.
Okay.
It's one of those games. It's a QWOP. I don't know if you know the game QWOP.
No.
QWOP was a game that was released on PC, and it's a very basic game where the letters QWOP, QWAP, actually controlled one arm, one leg, left arm, left leg, right arm, right leg, using each one of those. This is pretty much the same. Left trigger controls the left leg, right trigger controls the right leg, and you've got to get to the top of this mountain and just walk in that way. Lots of obstacles in the way, and that's it. That's the whole premise. You play a character called Nate, but it's supposedly got a bigger meaning to it. But it is, as soon as you fall down, you don't just fall down a little bit, you'll fall down pretty much most of the mountain. You have to start again.
Wow.
It's extremely frustrating, but it's one of those games which just grabs hold of you, and you constantly just can't stop playing it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play that, and I'm cooking a curry, because Saturdays for me is that kind of curry, sort of like bolognese kind of day.
Yeah. Well, that's good. For me, quiet day, quiet weekend. Tuesday, I'm having a medical thing done, which will then bed rest me for like 3 days. So I'm getting all my watch lists ready on my my things to watch, my little clipboard, so I can write reviews down and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm just sort of chilling out this weekend. Just watching TV, playing video games. Got my PS Portal charged up next to my bed. So that's all ready to play some games on next week. So I'll put that through its paces again.
I might put... I said I was going to purchase one myself, but because I had to pull out for a brand new washing machine, I might actually purchase one at the end of the month when I get paid, because I'm interested. Even though my PlayStation is right there and the television is right there, it's still that just thing of just having it in my hand, so I can just easily switch that on and switch on my PlayStation.
That's how I play it. I will play it literally 5 feet away from my PS5. Mm-hmm. And it's just some of the games are very different playing it on. Some games work better than others on the port. I don't mean like technology-wise, they work better. But it's like trying to play Gran Turismo, for example, on that when you tilt the thing doesn't quite work because your screen's obviously moving. But playing something like Crash Bandicoot or some of the Call of Duties or Stray or whatever works fine. So,
So I'll probably end up having one of those purchased by the time we podcast next.
Nice, good. Will you enjoy your afternoon? Enjoy your football.
Ditto with yourself.
Have a great time tomorrow watching many hours of Middle Earth.
I will.
And I will catch up with you on the next show.
Definitely.
Right. Take care. Thanks to everybody in the chat and everybody who's listened as well. So bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Plague. Don't listen to Stu. It's great.
Yeah, listen to me.
Don't listen. Bye-bye.
Actually, no, go watch it. Support independent films.
Go watch it, yeah. You like it or you won't like it. It's not a problem. Wreck or whatever you like. Right?
Exactly that.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.